Welcome to the Kanban board app in Godot tutorial. In this tutorial series, you will learn about theming, user interface design, loading and saving data, drag and drop and much more in Godot. If you haven't subscribed already, do subscribe, it's free and helps the videos reach more people. Don't forget to like too. So let's get started with this video. Let's work on the drag and drop feature. Let's start in the global signal script. Let's define a signal card mouse filter. This will be emitted when we want to change the mouse filter of all the cards. For example, when we are dragging a certain card, we want to make all the other cards non-clickable. Let's make a change in the card scene. Right-click the panel in the overlay node and click on Change Type, then select the button. Rename the node to Button. In the Custom Styles, add a style box flat for the hover state and give it a translucent color. Drag and drop this for the pressed state too. For the other states, set them to an empty style box. We get a nice hover effect with this on the cards. Click on the card node, and in the styles, click the drop down and save the style box. Then click on the Make Unique. And make the color of the style box a little darker. Then save that to a file. Then load the normal style for the card. Let's work on the script. Declare two variables for the normal and hover style boxes that we just saved and preload them. In the ready method, let's listen to the signal we defined in the global signals. In this method, we check if the new filter is mouse ignore, then we hide the card overlay. But if it is mouse stop, then we show it, and we also set the style box of the card to the normal style box. To make drag and drop, we need to define the getDragData method. This is called as soon as we start dragging. So here we want to hide the overlay and set the panel style to hover. Then we make a duplicate of this card for the drag preview. Then we call the FromData method on it and pass in the data. Finally, to set the preview, we call the setDragPreview method and pass the preview card. We also emit the mouse filter signal, so that all cards will become non-clickable while we are dragging. In the end, we need to return the data of this drag, so we will return self. Now we need to implement the object where we drop stuff. Here in the column script, we need two methods. CanDropData, where we return true, which means we can drop any type of data in any place. Then the second method, dropData. This is called once we drop the card on this column. Here we first get a reference to the old cards container. Then we run remove child so we unparent the card from the old column. We must also call the update column method on the old column node. The get column method will give us the column that the cards container is in. So, attach a script to the cards node. And here define a method get column. It will return the column node. So we use get node. The column path we define above is an export variable, so we can choose it in the inspector. Then click Assign, and choose the column node. Back to the column script. Now we need to add the card as a child to this column's cards node. So we first get the insert index, based on our mouse position where we should add the card. Then we add the card and move the card to the insert index. And again we call update column. And once the drop ends we emit the card mouse filter, to make the cards clickable again. This method, find closest child to mouse, is a lengthy one and slightly complex to get the insert index based on the mouse position. In short, in this method, we calculate the actual mouse Y position taking into consideration the scroll container's scroll. Then we find the closed card to the mouse and get its index. Finally, we check whether the mouse is above or below the midpoint of the closest child. If it is above we insert at the closest child index. Otherwise, we insert the closest child index plus 1. Okay, the card is not receiving the mouse events because of the overlay. So let's fix the mouse filter. Set the filter of the button to pass. And the same for the overlay. Okay. In the Set Mouse Filter, make sure to update the mouse filter to the new one. Also, go through each node in the card scene and set the mouse filter to pass. Nice, we can pick up and drop the card and it shows the preview. Instead of the mouse ignore, let's omit the mouse pass filter. And in this method, let's also modify it to mouse pass. Make sure the margin container also has the mouse filter to pass. Nice, we can now drag and drop above and below. The description icon is again blocking mouse events. So let's change it. Okay. Now let's make the drop to delete. So to the home node, add a reference rect. And rename it. Set the layout to full rect. Add a margin container and again set layout to full rect. Set the margins to 32 pixels. Then add a panel container and another margin container. And finally a label. Give the label some text. For the panel container, in the size flags, disable the fill flags. And enable the shrink center flags. This will bring this panel to the bottom right since we use shrink end. For the margin container, give it a 16 pixel margin. For the panel container, give it a style box flat and a nice yellow color. For the label, let's make the font color darker. Again, make sure to set the mouse filter to pass on the margin container. For the panel container, attach a script. This will also be a node where we drop stuff. So we need to define the canDropData method. And the dropData method. We should also omit the mouse stop filter so that all cards become clickable again. We should set the mouse filter to ignore instead of pass. Nice, the delete works. But let's make it better by animating it. So add an animation player. Then click Animation and New. Name it Show Drop Delete. We will make its length short, say 0.15 seconds. We will animate the entire delete reference rect. Adjust the snap to be also 0.15 seconds. Then move to the end of the animation, and click the key icon near the position, to add a keyframe. Then move the playhead to the start, and set the Y position to 100 and again click the key. Nice, it animates a pop-in effect. In the home script, we want to show this delete reference in the ready method. At the bottom, we add a process method that runs each frame. Here we check if the GUI is being dragged. If yes, we also need to check if we are not dragging. Then we play the show drop delete animation and set the is dragging to true. So let's define this variable at the top. Otherwise, if we are already dragging, we play the animation backward and set the dragging to false. At the start we want the delete reference to be below, so move the playhead to the start. Let's also add a hover effect to the drop delete. So add a reference rect to the panel container. Rename it to overlay. Add a panel to it. Add a style box and change the color to be translucent. Then in the drop delete script, we can declare the process. Here we get the mouse position using getViewport.getMousePosition. Then we check if this rect has the mouse position using getRect.hasPoint. If yes, we show the overlay, otherwise we hide it. If the drop was not successful, then also we need to emit the mouse filter signal. In the home node, after we set is dragging to false, we call the emit mouse filter signal and pass in the mouse stop. The drag and drop also work when the scroll bar is visible. Again, we need to change the mouse filters for the drop delete. Since we didn't implement the settings button, let's hide it. That's it for this video. Don't forget to subscribe and turn on push notifications if you haven't already so you don't miss a new video. Do like and comment on the video too.